Welcome to the Progress Zone podcast, where we help you create real momentum in your mindset, business, health, and life. I'm your host, Jody Donaldson, and every week we'll explore the small, intentional steps that lead to big, lasting growth. This isn't about hype, it's about habits. So let's get started. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited to have my next guest on here. We are joined today by Mr. Jay Croft. He's a journalist turned fitness marketing strategist, founder of Prime Fit Content, host of the Optimal Aging podcast, and author of Selling Longevity. Jay's work is reshaping how gyms, trainers, and wellness professionals connect with clients over 50 by focusing on functional health and storytelling and building lasting habits. None of this is quick fixes. And so, Jay, welcome to the Progress Zone.
Thanks so much, Jody. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, there's a lot I want to talk about today, but I think first off, just for folks that don't know you, and before we dive into what you're doing and your book and Prime Fit Content, can you talk us and walk us through your career journey, from journalism to being a leading voice in fitness and marketing longevity?
You bet. So for many years, I was a newspaper journalist. I was a reporter and editor at mainstream daily newspapers across the country. And the last 10 or 11 years, we're here in Atlanta, Georgia at the Journal-Constitution, the daily newspaper here in Atlanta. And I moved here in Atlanta about 30 years ago to cover the court system, the justice system in downtown Atlanta. So I was a hard news street reporter for a long time. And then I got into features editing and led a portion of the features team for a number of years. And then the internet and smartphones came along and more or less killed the newspaper industry. And I left journalism in 2007, I think. And it's a good thing I did, because the next year, all of my friends and colleagues their jobs were eliminated. So wow. I saw it coming just a moment ahead and said, the party's over. It's time to go. And they all looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, you have heard of the internet. It's going to kill the newspaper industry. No, you're crazy. Anyway, so I left there and I was still really young. I was in my early 40s and I needed to find a way to make a living. So I stumbled into doing corporate communications at several very large multi-billion-dollar corporations, that some that you've heard of and some that you haven't perhaps. And did that for a few years, struggled with it, was not good at it. I was a good newsman. I had a successful career in newspapers. That's all I ever wanted to be. And when that suddenly disappeared, I kind of just stumbled into this corporate communications thing because that's just how things worked out. I had no idea. No one anticipated that newspapers would disappear. Right. So I just kind of stumbled into corporate communications, and turns out I wasn't very good at it. I was a real fish out of water. It's that whole swimming with the sharks mentality of corporate life. It is not for me. And so it took me a few years to realize that I didn't belong there. And long story short, I stumbled into being a freelance writer, and then noticing shortly after I turned 50 that the that the fitness industry was no longer interested in me as a consumer. And I'd been going to gyms my whole life. I'm very comfortable at gyms. I've always been in good condition, etc. And it's hard to tell you exactly what it was, but something definitely happened in my perception of how I was being perceived. Does that make sense? And being in media, I'm comfortable with the idea of being in a target market and aging out of the target market and all of that. I didn't take it personally, but I did my research and found out that indeed the fitness industry really is laser focused on boys who want big muscles. It's a cheap, easy business. You buy it, you get a room, you fill it with weights, and you charge them $20 or $30 a month to come in, and you're done, right? So that's great. If that's your business model, I wish you all success. Have at it. But here I was 50 years old, been going to the gym all my life, and suddenly I was persona non grata. All my friends and family members are older than I am. They're still active. They're making money. They're going on fabulous trips and skiing and hiking. And coaching their grandkids soccer leagues and all these things. They're not slowing down. I'm not slowing down. Why is no one paying attention to this?
Right.
And so that was the birth of Prime Fit Content. And Prime Fit Content is my business wherein I create and sell marketing material for gyms and other fitness professionals who want to reach people over 50 and get them engaged. Too many people, as you know better than I do, don't do anything physically. And it's especially true in this older demographic. And so if we can get a few people off the couch and into the gym, puts money in your pocket and improves their health and well-being.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Wow. Yeah. So that whole journey, I love it though, because it's super interesting how you've also not really reinvented yourself, but you have pivoted and progressed in different areas and had to learn new ways and like you said, the corporate world, it's cutthroat. It's a very different world, right? So, yeah, and it's not for everybody. And there's so many people that do feel stuck in their roles, and don't feel like there's alternatives. So it's good that you were able to do that.
No, I've been reminded of a lot of this today because this morning it was announced that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution was ceasing print publication after more than 150 years. There will be no more newspaper in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh my gosh.
I knew this was coming. It's been coming for 15 years. It's coming to every city in America, more or less. And if it hasn't happened in your town, it will be, cutting back to not every day or not at all. I think this is the first really big city that's not going to have a print newspaper. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. And of course, this was my home for many years, and my passion and everything I cared about and everything I loved was being a newspaper reporter and being a part of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And it's been dying on the vine for 15 years, and now they finally put a stake in it. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been thinking about my former colleagues, who we all had to struggle to reinvent ourselves or pivot. And some did it brilliantly, and some really struggled, and some did okay. And it threw us all for a loop when our industry was sacked midway through our careers. Yeah.
What do you think? What did you do to help your mindset and keep you going? And knowing that you had to kind of pivot and try something new. And I mean, what did you do internally?
Yeah, well, it was terrifying. I remember one night I had I don't know I broke down and cried my head off for about 15 minutes. I was walking down. I went to dinner with a friend in my neighborhood. We left the restaurant around the corner from where I lived at the time. We were walking down the street, and I saw maybe the tallest building in Atlanta, one of them anyway. It was on the horizon, and that building is across the street from my first apartment. So when I moved here to work for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I lived across the street for that apartment. And I was struggling with this realization that it was over. Right. And nobody I knew agreed with me, but I knew it was over. And the party was over, and I was going to leave before someone called the cops. It was that kind of moment, Heartbreaking. It felt like the death of a parent. That's the only way I can put it. And I looked up and I saw that building, and I just started crying. It's like, it's over. It's over. It's all over. I came here to be a part of this, and it's over. And my friend was scared to death. He's not in the newspaper business. He didn't know what was going on in my head.
What's happening here?
What's happening here? And it was devastating. So then after I made I don't want to say I made the decision, because I really just accepted it. And acceptance is so important as we navigate these changes in life. It's not always getting what you want. It's often accepting what you're not going to get that. So what are you going to do now? And when I accepted the fact that technology had destroyed my industry and that I better find a new way to make a living for the next 25 years, then I started working it. I broke out my Rolodex. This was before the internet and before Facebook, maybe before Facebook. I think so. I'm not sure. Probably, yeah. But I called everybody I knew. I was a reporter. I knew everybody in town. So I called a lot of folks and said, I'm not asking you for a job, but I'm leaving the paper and I need some help because I don't know how to do anything else. I don't even know how to talk about doing anything else. So can we have lunch? Can we have coffee? Can we have cocktails? Whatever you like, whatever you're willing to spare your time with. And let me just kind of pick your brain a little bit about where I might go next, because I don't know.
Right.
And that was the only way I could do it, was by being very honest and vulnerable, and forgive me for using the word transparent. But if I tried to BS these people, they would have smelled it a mile
Oh,
away.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
I ever wanted to do is be a newsman, and I was good at it, and I had a nice career and a good place to work, and then it was over. And I had no idea what to do. So I called a lot of smart people, picked their brains, got some ideas. One of them referred me to a large corporation here in town, and that company hired me, and that was the beginning of my 6 years, I think, 7 years, something like that, in corporate America. And like I said, it wasn't the greatest fit, but it paid really well,
Sure.
so that was nice. And I remember thinking, well, I used to love my job, and now I'm getting paid really well, so at least that's something, right?
Trade-off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, I can only imagine. I mean, I think, and that happened. I keep reading, like even today, there's several companies that are laying off people almost weekly, right? And it's
Yes,
like,
yeah.
folks just get, good for you, and kudos to you for having the mindset or something inside that once you accepted it, you knew like, hey, I've got to do something. I can't just sit here. I can't just give up. Like, I got to keep moving forwards one way or another. I've got to learn something new. Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, I think it also talks about like the power of a network, right? Like, I think a lot of folks, mm-hmm. even if you're introverted, I think it's important to have a network of people that you can just reach out to and have conversations with. I love that, right? I read a book and it talks about 2 cups of coffee, right? Just have 2 cups of coffee with people, learn something. Yeah. And just really, you don't know where the next journey might take you, or the people you might meet that might be like, hey, we need you. This is perfect. Right. So I definitely, kudos to you for doing that, because I'm sure it was a very hard time. And then, not knowing what it was going to look like, but good for you for doing that.
Yeah. It was scary. Very scary.
From all those experiences, and then you talk about too, like sometimes we have to accept the things that we're doing as we're aging. And I know like longevity and fitness and things is kind of your passion and background, but like those early experiences and going through that transition just for work, right? And then also knowing that you've started to see an underserved population, but those experiences, how have they shaped your perspective on like functional fitness and vitality and longevity? I mean, seeing it through your own personal lens, but also like as you've developed, in your professional life, seeing that was an underserved market, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, like a lot of people, before I got started in this, I associated fitness and going to the gym and whatnot with just having big muscles. And that primarily makes you think of young boys, because when I was a young boy, I wanted big muscles too, and I had them for a long time. And now you get, you don't really care that much anymore. It's not that important. But I guess that's as far as I went in thinking about it. But by that point in my life, it was just a part of my routine. I went to the gym because that was my sport, and it helped me burn off stress and manage anxiety and, keep my weight in check and all these sort of ordinary things that everybody thinks about. But I didn't really think about functional fitness or carrying a grandbaby around or not being able to ski. Someday I like to go skiing. I grew up in Alaska and Colorado, so I'm very comfortable on a mountain. And I thought, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to do that one day. Well, that does happen because of sarcopenia and all the other things that happen to us if we don't take care of ourselves. So I had to learn all of this as a reporter, and that is my process for understanding things. I treat this as my beat. I have things that I do all the time to stay on top of what's going on and to meet new people and to listen to their stories and incorporate them into what I'm creating for gyms in my content and who I'm having on my podcast and all of this. So I guess I've processed it all or learned it all the way I did when I became a court reporter. I wasn't a lawyer. I never went to law school, but I had to learn all the procedures of a courthouse and how a case moves through the system and who the district attorney is and who the whole thing, right? So I kind of applied that process, which I think is, for me is just how I look at anything. I have to get in there and I have to talk to people and I have to go to places and I have to smell things and taste them and
Right.
look people in the eye and all of that. It's very tactile for me. And so that's how I associated my learning process to fitness. And then I met some really wonderful people very early on in my my journey on this, including our mutual friend Rick Mayo, who has always been very generous with me and with explaining things to me and being a sounding board, and also some really terrific people at an organization called the Functional Aging Institute, and some of the gym owners who are a part of that group that kind of took me under their wing and kind of gave me this crash course in personal training and in also their broader business owner concerns in running a small business. And it was just a very intimate way to learn what's on their mind, what their problems are, and how someone like me can help them. So that was what got it going. And then it's just been nonstop ever since. You know, being an entrepreneur, you're just on a roller coaster. And sometimes you feel like you're doing a decent job of it, you know, and then sometimes you're just terrified and hanging on for dear life. So it's, yeah, it's all those things all the time.
Yeah. Well, you just launched your book, Selling Longevity, right? And so I'm sure you did you have a lot of historical background knowledge just personally, but also talking to folks. What do you think, challenges gyms approach to over 50? Because I know you talk about like, what's the biggest mistake? It's an underserved market, but do you see that as probably one of the biggest mistakes in that fitness industry right now?
Yeah, I do. I think that this is the biggest economic opportunity that's out there, and that's before all of you in who own gyms or who want to own gyms or who are in. Yeah. I always say fitness, health, and well-being because I see us evolving more to that more inclusive, right, holistic approach. I don't mean inclusive in like a political way. It's not what I mean. I mean realizing that there's no difference between going to the gym and eating right and taking care of yourself with your doctor and managing your stress. And all these things to me are related. That's why the name of my podcast is Optimal Aging, because right, that's really what we're talking about here. And sure, I don't think you can just pull out one piece of it and say, oh, it's just all about getting to the gym. So I guess I like to look at it as a holistic approach, but the gym is sort of the centerpiece of it because we need strength. And most people my age and older don't know. I'm 61 years old, and I remember when fitness became a part of the culture. It was in the late 70s and early 80s. And before then, nobody went to the gym. There weren't gyms, you know?
Yeah.
And now everybody goes. But people my age and older might not know that they need to go or why or how it relates to their lives. And that's what we're talking about with functional fitness. And that's why I think it's the key message when approaching people who are my age and a little older is we're not talking about one thing or another. We're talking about letting you live the life you want to live. Right. So if you want to go run triathlons, please do. I have a sister who runs triathlons, and she and her friend do it. The friend is 71 years old.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. They live in Wasilla, Alaska. They have a women's hockey team. Yeah. Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, these people are living life. They're doing what they want to do, but you don't have to do all of that in order to benefit from going to a gym and having strength and endurance and agility. You might just want to be able to play with your grandchildren and pick them up off the floor without throwing your back out or without getting winded and having the kid, disappointed that you can't play more with them. You might want to get off some of those meds that you've been on for 40 years while you were working at the office. Amen. You might want to be able to just continue whatever you like to do, ballroom dancing, gardening. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a sport. But at this point in life, we all need strength, agility, and endurance to do just about anything because we're losing muscle. Yep. And if we don't, we're going to end up unable to get off the couch and get off the toilet, and then it's all over. So it's a paradigm shift in how I have viewed fitness and how I think most people in the culture have viewed fitness. So we need to educate more people about it, that it's not just about having big muscles. It's about looking better, feeling better, moving better, and having a better life for a longer time, however you define it. That's the thing. It's really freedom. I don't care what you do, but I promise you that going to the gym, coming to see Jody 2 or 3 times a week will help you do it all better, period.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've gotten a lot of attention on longevity and functional fitness, and just being able, like you said, functional fitness, what is that? It's just, I'm able to function as a human, maybe not at the pace or the speed or the strength that I used to have, but our bodies are made to move, and we got to keep moving them, and we got to keep building some of that so that we can have just the basics, right? Like carrying our groceries in from the store when we're, hopefully 70, 80 years old, and we're still upright and we're not in a wheelchair, or, like there's so many different things. And to your point, people just need to find something and just move and to keep that. And I do think, fitness, like you said, you think about it, it's like bodybuilders and powerlifters, and that's what it's about. And it's really not about that. I mean, I feel like it's finally the wave, and maybe it's because there's so many of us that are over that demographic and at that age that we have been physically fit and working out, and now we want to continue that, where maybe that hadn't been prior generations. But I just feel like a lot of folks are there's a lot more emphasis on it or attention on it, which I think is helpful. So that folks.
That's why I named. Yeah, that's why I named the book Selling Longevity. I didn't sell it. I didn't call it How to Be 25 Again.
Right.
Because no one can do that for you. I didn't call it How to Look Your Best Again, or How to Have Rippling Six-Pack Abs at Any Age, or any of that. It's because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about living your best life for as long as you can. And that's really what it's all about. This longevity economy is worth, I don't know how many billions with a B, billions of dollars. And that's what we're talking about, because the baby boomers are still here, and they're aging, and they want what they want, and they have the money to pay for it. And then below following the baby boomers are, of course, Gen X. And Gen X came up when going to the gym was part of life. Right. So they're going to expect that to continue. Something really interesting happened to me last week. Some folks threw a party for me for the book, and someone in the audience who is 69 years old and very fit, big muscles, really, vibrant guy, retired, wealthy, all the things, said, Jay, you talk a lot about how gyms can reach out to deconditioned people in our age group who are afraid to go to the gym or might be intimidated. What about people like me? I'm not afraid to go to the gym. I'm not deconditioned. What do you got for me? And I thought, that is a really good topic. Let's talk about it. And we did. And actually my podcast this week is about that very topic, because so often I think we do talk about the great majority of people who are out of shape and scared to death to go to a gym. How can we get them off the couch? And there's reasons for that. There's more of them, right? Sure. So that's perhaps where the greater business opportunity is. But I think there's the minority of people in our demographic who are in good shape and not intimidated by a gym, and who can walk into anywhere and get a good workout. They're still aging. That was this gentleman's point of view. I'm aging. Stuff's going to happen. My elbow hurts sometimes. Yeah. I might need a hip replacement sometime. I might develop any number of the chronic ailments that are common as we continue to age. So what do you got for me?
Right.
And I thought, now that is a really interesting question, because we don't talk about that often enough. Yeah. I'm sure that probably threw you for a loop for a second, because you had to be like, wait, you're right. It totally threw me. And this man is a friend of mine. And I said to him later, I said, first of all, excellent question. Thank you for asking it. Secondly, I've never been asked that question before. The gears were spinning. You're standing up there in front of a lot of people, and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know. Let me think here. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, that kind of goes into the mindset of folks that are over 50 per se, and the folks that have been working out or used to, and then life got in the way or an injury happened and they're trying to get back into it. But I think the motivations for folks in our demographic, it's different too, right? Like motivation, like you said, might have been bigger muscles or run faster or, lift as much as I can. And now it's like, I just want to be active and have fun and do some things. So I think that motivation, especially for like gym owners or folks that are marketing to that population, they've got to understand that it's not what is going to feed that the fit people. And then, I think they've already figured out the deconditioned folks, right? Because that's where all the marketing is. But I think when they start focusing on how they sell it like holistically, like you mentioned, hey, we have things for for whatever you want to do. You're going to do strength training because that's super important as we lose muscle mass over time, our bone density, everything else. But you're also going to be able to do some of the basic things that, longer in life if you do that now. And so I think it's part of that investment. Was there anything through your research on the book and also with all your guests that you've had on the podcast that sticks out or surprised you when you were putting this together?
By the time I started putting the book together, I'd been doing this for a number of years, so I'm not sure anything jumped out. But here's what did jump out. Bear with me for a second. Let's say that I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say that there are 13 components of this book. I know there might be 20, I don't know, whatever, but let's say 13.
Yeah.
I've written about each of those 13 many times.
Right.
But this was the first time that I put them down one after the other in order from beginning to end, and then looked at the arc of the story, so to speak, looked at the whole thing from 1 to 2 to 3 all the way down. And when that happened, or when I did that, each of those pieces clicked into place perfectly, snapped right into place, like when your kid is playing with Legos or when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle and the piece goes together. And I thought, this is good. This is good, because what would be troubling is if one of those pieces didn't fit or one of those pieces stood out. And that would mean that there's something not quite right about something I've been saying on that point. I need to re-examine how that fits into everything. So it was very heartening, actually, to see it all put together, because I think it holds up really well. It's very organic. The reasons why we all need to go to the gym and stay active, and how fitness professionals need to reach out to this demographic, not only because you're helping people live a better life, but also because you're going to make more money that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're providing a premium service, there's nothing wrong with charging a premium price for it and marketing yourself toward people who can pay for it. So I guess that's the thing, is seeing how it all holds up, because it's really compelling when you look at it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Have you noticed a pattern in your guests that have been on your show or articles that you have written over time? Is there a certain mindset of folks that are active over 50? Like, because I do feel like, sometimes there's folks that are in a fixed mindset and like, oh, it's not going to change and I can't do it. I have an injury, versus someone who might be in a growth mindset or always looking to kind of make progress in their life and no matter what it is. But have you noticed any pattern from folks over 50 that either want to get in better shape or that have been in shape and what they do now?
Yes, I have. And it's very interesting that you ask, because again, I think of everything in terms of story and how one thing leads to another and what changes something. And so I think of it in terms of any story is you have rising action. You remember from 10th grade where they taught us what goes into a novel, right? And a series of events lead up to the climax, right? Well, so there's a moment when everything changes. And so for people who are deconditioned and committed to remaining deconditioned. Because I think the ones my age, your age, are over 40, over 50, who are already in shape and killing it, they're of that mindset. They get it. They're probably also pretty high achievers in their careers. They're probably very active with their family and their community. There's some common traits that go with people who maintain their physical health on their own. That is a mindset. So I think that's the minority that we're talking about. For the other folks who don't do anything and who seem to, you just can't get them to get it. The thing that's in common is there's always a moment where everything changes and there's a catalyst. And from that catalyst is what blows their mindset. They've got that fixed mindset. I'm old, I'm fat, I'm over the hill, I'm retired. It's too late for me. I don't care about the muscles. I never wanted muscles. Leave me alone. What's on Netflix tonight, right? That's it. And they're going to hold on to that. Something really powerful has to come along to blow that apart, to change that mindset. And the thing that does it is usually it can be something as serious as a doctor's diagnosis.
Right.
It can be, Jody, you've got type 2 diabetes. You're going to die. You're going to have serious health issues because of this. You don't want type 2 diabetes. You better do something about it. And for a lot of people, they go, oh, shit, I certainly do not want type 2 diabetes. Wake up call, wake up call, wake up call. What can I do? Or they get something that any of the other sort of common ailments that happen to us a little bit later in life. So it can be something really serious like that. It can also be something as, less life-threatening, but just as important to your quality of life as playing with a grandkid and getting winded. I think that one of the best stories I've written probably in the last couple of years is about a woman here in Atlanta who she's about 65, I think, and she was about to retire. And I think she's 65 or so. And the family had a Thanksgiving Day gathering at a park, and they rented a bouncy house. And this woman's very close to her little granddaughter, who at the time was 2 years old. And so she was really looking forward to playing in the bouncy house with the little girl. She couldn't do it. 5 seconds in the bouncy house, and she was gasping and wheezing and had to say, Nana doesn't feel well. She has to go home. It broke her heart. Yeah. The saddest day of her life. And she called the gym, happened to be an Alloy. And 7 months later, July 4th, the family had another picnic, and they got one of those slides that you climb up and, inflatable slides, and you go down. And this woman and the 2.5-year-old ran up the slide, did it again, ran up the slides, went down the slide, ran up the slide, down, and they were both just giggling and laughing and having so much fun. This woman said, she ran at me with her little arms outstretched and said, do it again, Nana, do it again.
Oh.
If that doesn't break your heart,
right,
and if that doesn't make you see that this woman will never, ever leave that gym, you gave her playing with her toddler grandchild.
Yeah.
She's a customer forever now, right? Yep. So it can be health. It can be playing with the grandkids, traveling. It can be maintaining your ability to play golf and play tennis without hurting yourself, or ballroom dancing. A lot of people enjoy that. That's hard work if you've never done it.
Yeah.
Gardening is hard work. If you've never been out in the garden, that's tough.
In 90+ degree heat on your knees, digging. Yeah.
That's tough. So something that emerged really quickly to me when I started doing Prime Fit content was there were 7 reasons. I call them the 7 secrets, although they're not secrets. I just call them that, as to why people in this demographic want to get fit or stay fit. And there are things like grandkids, traveling, enjoying your sports and hobbies, your physical health, your mental health, things like this. And when I need a story idea, or when I need to focus and say, how is this relevant for my customers? I think, which of the 7 am I talking about? And it's always one of them.
Right.
Because those are the things that everybody wants to play with their grandchildren. Everybody wants to feel better and move better and look better.
Yeah.
These are just powerful motivators. And when you're 25, you don't really need to go to the gym to do all of that. You can stay out drinking all night and get up and go to school in the morning. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think it's interesting that what you mentioned too about the folks that are disciplined and have already done it are doing it, but for the folks that these events that happen that wake them up, or a diagnosis or something, like, I think that is that seems to be the more common reason why folks, I think, in our age demographic, decide to do something. But I think for gym owners or marketers or whoever, I mean, what do you think that they could be doing to create a safer, more encouraging space, for that audience? Because I do think fear, right? Okay, if I've been out of it for one, I get back in there, and am I going to hurt myself? Two, I'm maybe embarrassed, right? Intimidation by big box gyms, or certain areas where it's but I think, what could they do to these businesses to just encourage more people of all, physicalities and abilities to just get in there and start trying to improve? What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think there's a two-part approach to it. And the first part is your marketing. You have to let people know that you care about people in this demographic and that you're capable of helping them, because most gyms don't care and are not capable, and they're fine with that, and really, I don't mean any of this as a judgment. If your business model is to help young boys have huge pecs, then go for it. That's great. But that market is saturated. So if you're a businessman looking for an opportunity, this is it. And so you need to educate yourself on what it means to provide fitness services to people who are a little older. And then you need to let people know that you want them. And you do that through any number of marketing techniques that we can talk about. And then after the marketing comes the experience. It's like, okay, I saw your ad on Facebook, or I read your blog post, or I saw the email newsletter, or I saw you speak at the Chamber of Commerce, or whatever. Right. I'm here to check you out. Well, then you better deliver a good experience. And that means everything. There is nothing too small. And I don't mean because people in this demographic are so hard to please. I mean because everything you're doing is flashing red lights. Either we want you here or get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Believe me. And when I'll give you an example, let's say that I see your marketing. I've had one of these catalyst moments. I decided to go check you out. And there's a teenager behind the counter. Shouldn't knock teenagers. There's a person behind the counter. There's an employee behind the counter of any age who's looking at her cell phone and can't be bothered to look up at me, and is, couldn't care less that a human being walked into her business, let alone that it's me in particular. So that's bad. Every person needs to be greeted. Hello, how are you? I'm looking you in the eye. I care about you as a human being. I want your money. I'm going to treat you professionally so that I get your money and offer you our services, right?
Yeah.
And then everything from there on, the sales experience, the interview process, the onboarding process after they've joined needs to keep in mind that these are individual people who want to be seen and heard, not because they're frail or because you're going to hurt them or because they're sensitive, because they're old people and you can't say anything to them. That's not what I'm talking about. No. I mean, everybody wants to be seen and heard. So let them know that you've asked what their goals are. You've asked what their fears are. You've asked what their health experience is. And then you make them feel welcome. If you go take them on a tour and the gym is full of young guys throwing weight around, making that horrible noise when the 45-pound plates hit the floor, right?
Or grunting real loud.
And looking in the mirror and, slapping women on the butt or any of that. That's very off-putting, No one's who's already got their guard up and scared about being there is going to come back if any of that happens. Yeah. So at least during some period of the day, have your MO be something that's going to be more palatable to people who are not 25-year-old muscle boys, and have it be, instead of loud, ear-splitting heavy metal or hip hop, maybe you're playing, yacht rock or old Motown classics or 80s MTV songs or something that people in that age you feel comfortable about and feels familiar to them, and give them a tour and talk about functional fitness, explain these things. They don't know. It's easy to forget that most people don't know what you know about whatever it is you do, right? So, you're an expert on fitness. The next person who walks into your gym is probably not an expert on fitness. So you need to remember, I've got to explain this in a way that's relevant to that person.
Yeah.
I can't talk down to them. I can't assume they know everything.
Yeah.
So that's it. I think it's the idea that you have to make them aware that you want them, and then you have to deliver a positive experience from the get-go, from the minute they walk in your door.
Yeah, because I think too, they're quickly folks in that demographic that are paying good money to get a service. If it's not good in the first little bit, I mean, I feel like we're all in an instant gratification society, anyways. But if that first visit or that first workout session or whatever it is isn't where it needs to be, they'll go take it somewhere else. I think. So I think that's super important. And I think to your point, the gyms or studios that have really knocked it out of the park with that individualized, personalized attention, really separate them from the ones that are struggling, right? Because I think, we do know there's big box gyms that just rely on that you paying the membership and never going. They don't care whether you show up or not, whatever. It's a numbers game. We need 700, 900, 1,000 members versus, a small boutique fitness that's like, hey, I know you, Jay. What's going on? How was your trip? You're building a relationship. You're building a rapport. You like you said, they're human. Everybody just wants to connect on some level like that, and I think that's so huge.
Yeah, you can't compete on price. If somebody comes into your studio or your gym or your boutique business or whatever you want to call it, someone comes in and says, "Oh, you're too expensive. I can go to Planet Fitness for, I know, was it $19.95 or $14.95 or whatever." Then you say, well, enjoy that. I can't compete with that price. If price is your number one concern, then, go to Planet Fitness. That's fine. And good luck, But there's more to those people aren't for you. They're not your customer. Your customer can afford your services.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I tell you, so I met you, several months ago. Prime Fit content has become a go-to resource for gyms. Especially serving this older market, 40, 50 plus. We've heard the story of how you've built it, but how's it evolved since you actually started it? When you first got into it. I mean, I feel like you're growing, fast as well, and there's a lot of opportunity. So how has it developed over time for you in your business?
Well, the evolution is it's kind of like that roller coaster of being an entrepreneur. Sometimes it feels like things are going really fast, and sometimes it feels like I'm not doing anything differently. Nothing's changing. Right. What's wrong with me? How come I'm not adapting? So part of being an entrepreneur for me anyway, I can't speak for anyone else, I've had to learn to accept being able to do what I can do and to acknowledge the progress, because I'm very hard on myself and I want to say I'm not growing enough. I'm not serving enough people. I'm not getting enough leads. I'm not closing enough sales. I'm not getting enough really interesting stories in the mix.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful to a point. You want to have high standards for yourself. But if you can stop and turn around and look where you were 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago and see the progress that you've made, then that's just a slightly more encouraging way to look at it. So I think what I've learned a few things along the way that are, maybe more practical than that. I was undercharging. I think that's a common thing in the fitness industry. A lot of gyms and trainers undercharge. I thought, well, I'll make this so cheap that nobody can say no. what I quickly learned is when you make it too cheap, they think there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
And then someone very wise who we both know said people will pay premium fees for premium service. So that was a key mindset to me. Is like, if you can't afford the very low price for the very high bargain that I'm providing, then you're probably not ready to be in business anyway. So I had to evolve from wanting anybody, please come, do business with me, please. I'm really good. You'll like me, to kind of what's vetting prospects, how's your business? You got any money? Do you understand what marketing is? Do you understand why people want to come work out with you or don't want to work out with you? Do you have a rainy day fund? A lot of people don't. That was something I learned in COVID. A lot of gyms went out of business like that because they didn't have 3 months of a rainy day fund. Like, well, if you're not that square, I probably can't help you anyway. So I had to learn to do a better job of seeing where I fit into the business, the entire business that people are running, Yeah. If they don't get it, I mean, I used to hear this a lot. Oh, my niece will be back for summer and she'll do my Twitter. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Right.
You think we're talking about your niece doing Twitter? I don't care about your Twitter account.
Yeah.
It was really hard to see things from their point of view because, like everyone, I want to see things from my point of view. So I had to evolve how I was seeing what I was offering, which I think is probably a good idea for gym owners too. How are you coming off? How are people seeing you? Right?
Yeah. So important, I think. And you've evolved just from your early days and written a book and strategists and understanding this demographic and the psychology behind it. I mean, just all the things that have come into kind of your progression in life. What habits or practices do you use to just stay focused and creative? I mean, when we know how you were able to pivot early on when things changed, at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and you made that mindset helped you get through that. But like, how do you, what keeps you motivated, and how do you, stay focused and creative? Because I know folks do, it is hard when you get in the day-to-day grind. And like you said, sometimes you feel like you're knocking it out of the park, and other times you're like, am I doing enough? And then you're, it's all these balances.
Yeah. I find it very easy to stay motivated doing this work. For a number of reasons. First of all, I'm just generally interested in it. I was at the gym before this call, I was at the gym for a couple hours, and
nice.
I go almost every day and I stay fit, and I don't have a trainer's level of knowledge, but I have, more than the average bears. It's interesting to me. I like it. So that's helpful. We've all had jobs where we're bored stiff by the topic, right? And that was part of the problem. But for me in corporate America, working on memos that try to find anyone in the world who wants to read this, right?
The
so
email
that's
opening
helpful.
click rate is so low from internal messaging from HR and all the others. Yeah, it's
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the other thing is that I'm meeting a lot of great people in the fitness industry, and then a lot of gym owners and whatnot, but also the clients who are changing their lives through the fitness services. So as a storyteller, as a writer, I'm looking for conflict, and I'm looking for progression and change and some kind of emotional release. I don't mean in every single thing I write. Oftentimes I'll write about a new study has come out that said that post-menopause women are 40% less likely to break a hip if they do this or that or what. Wow. This very informative stuff that doesn't need to have an emotional payoff. But a lot of this stuff just does. That woman I told you about who took her grandchild up the slide and one more time, Nana, one more time. Well, that's just powerful stuff. I mean, so for me to stay motivated, I get to help small businesses grow their business and help more people live better lives. And I get to tell these stories that are just really beautiful. And and funny or touching or informative. And that's what keeps me going. And, like I said earlier, I treat this as my beat. So I read a lot of things. I talk to a lot of people. I go to a lot of places. I'm going to a conference next week in Nashville, and I'm going to go to another one in Dallas shortly.
Nice.
And or I'm going to talk to a lot of people. And maybe nothing I see or hear or talk about will end up in my work, but it will inform what I'm doing. It will make my work better, and it will make my approach richer, and everything I do just that much better by being more informed about it. People say, where do you get your ideas for stories? And it's like, by constantly reporting, talking to people, getting stuff, reading, calling, just seeing what's out there. I'll give you an example. When I was covered the courthouse here, the grand jury sent up indictments every Tuesday and Friday.
Right.
So every Tuesday and every Friday, I went and read every single indictment. There were several hundred a day. You could read them pretty quickly because most of them were, you could tell right away that they weren't newsworthy. But most of the time there was nothing there. But sometimes there'd be something where you'd think, what is this? How did we not know that this case was before the grand jury? Or why are there suddenly so many indictments for this kind of crime that we normally don't get indictments for? Just the kind of things that make you go, right? It's that kind of work that I do constantly with Fitness Over 50 that just keeps me informed and keeps me excited about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure if that means if that resonates with people who haven't done this kind of thing before, but it's the only way I know how to go about it.
Well, I think your storytelling's excellent. And I think the fact that you tie it to real world, real life scenarios and situations where, something, the stories are moving, right? Like people, we had, the story was last year, a lady 50 plus, I don't know her age, probably in her 50s or 60s, a child who was disabled that needs to be able to fully carry the weight of the child everywhere, or the adult child, right? Like, these stories are like heart-wrenching to hear the why of these people just trying to live their best life so they can be there for their friends, their grandkids, their neighbors, their, whatever it is. So I think it only is going to help folks see fitness, longevity, health, like you said, from this holistic thing. It's not just about how strong you are, how fast you are, how much you can lift. It's going to be about, what can we all do besides eating right and getting our sleep and all the other things that we need to do, but to stay active, because our bodies are made to move. So keep doing what you're doing, man, because I think it's so huge. And I think these stories do resonate with folks. They do with me, and most folks I've talked to or who have read some of the stuff. It's pretty, touching. So, and I think it's
thank
important.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. So, for anyone in this demographic who's listening right now, I think just starting the journey toward better health, and that might be on the fence or might be scared. What's one small step that they could take today to make progress? What do you think?
Well, it depends on where they are, but I think the first thing is to just start small. A common mistake is to say, I will go to the gym for 2 hours a day, every day for 5. It's like, no, you
set
won't.
yourself up for failure right from the get-go, right?
Right. And then you'll feel terrible about yourself and you'll never do it again. So depending on where you are, set a fairly modest goal. Maybe if you are completely sedentary, maybe you set a goal that 3 nights a week, you're going to walk around the neighborhood for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, maybe it's in the morning after you've had your coffee or whatever. It doesn't matter. But that's a pretty manageable thing for most people. And then after the first week or two, add 5 more minutes until you're comfortably walking 30 minutes a day, 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And then from there, just build on that. It doesn't all mean you go join a gym tomorrow. No. If the first thing you need to do is the first thing you need to do, then figure out what that is and be happy about that. Be happy that you're taking the first step, not frustrated because you're not taking all the steps all at once.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Like just
one bite at a time.
You just gotta do something. Yeah. And it is, I think you said it too, like, it is overwhelming if you've been deconditioned or coming off an injury and you're like, oh my God, I used to be here and I got so far to go. But the reality is it doesn't matter. Like, do something, make those little steps, get those stackable wins, right? And then you have some momentum, and then it just builds, I think. And I think that's part of, the mindset and the growth that I think all of us, if we can get into that zone and just set ourselves up early for some wins, so we get some of that momentum, I think it'll help all of us, no matter what would it, not just fitness, but in anything in life, right? It's
in anything. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jay, this has been great, man. Where can listeners find your book and learn more about Prime Fit content?
Sure. So you can go to primefitcontent.com to learn about my services. And there's a link there you can get a free PDF of the book, or you can order the paperback version on Amazon. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and you can listen to the Optimal Aging podcast. I think there's lots of ways I'm everywhere. Yeah.
Is it under your name or Prime Fit Content, or for the Instagram, or is it under your name, or is it?
Instagram is Prime Fit Content.
Okay.
Facebook is me, and LinkedIn is me.
Well, we'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes so everybody can find you and connect. And again, man, I really appreciate your time today. I think this has been a great conversation, and I love what you're doing. And, for full transparency, I own an Alloy personal training studio in Cary, and Jay is part of our marketing team and does our newsletters and writes great stories to our members and prospects. And it's just been good feedback. And we're just happy that, we have you on our side, and that you're telling those stories to help us all get better in life and live longer, healthier, right?
Right. And thanks for having me be a part of your team. I love what you're doing in Cary. I love what Alloy's doing all over the country.
Yeah.
Happy to be a part of it.
Well, thanks so much. And folks, just keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and I'll see you next time inside the Progress Zone. Thanks for joining me in the Progress Zone. If today's episode gave you a spark, share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a quick review. And remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. I'm Jody Donaldson, and I'll catch you next time inside the Progress Zone.